The secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. In a recent video, I talked about how to make reading a habit. I mentioned that there are 3 things that create a habit: a cue, a routine, and a reward. In this video, I'm going to focus on the routine, because having a good reading routine is essential for not only reading consistently, but also effectively and often way faster. Hey, I'm Gigi from Book Street Smart, and in this video, I'm going to share with you some tips on how to make your own reading routine. Tip 1. Read multiple books. There is no rule that says you can't read more than 1 book at the same time. In fact, a lot of people that manage to finish reading 50 to 60 books a year are able to do this because they read multiple books at the same time. A lot of people pick up a book, start reading it, and won't pick up another book if this one isn't finished yet. I would know because I used to do that too. But that's not very effective. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to read a certain book. So you need to allow yourself to have a reading routine where you can read another book while you haven't finished the first yet. But at the same time, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to start reading 10 books and then eventually neglect them all. So if you're going to read multiple books, pick 3 books max. And when it comes to picking your books, you want to read a combination of different types. That brings us to tip 2. Read different types of books. Now, I'm not talking about the genre, I'm talking about the type, and there are 3 types of books. First, we have the classics. These are books that have stood the test of time, that are at least 30, 50, 100, or even 1,000 years old and highly respected. Who you listen to is a big part of life, and a book that has lasted a long time probably has value for you, or else it would have been forgotten. Classic books often contain universal truths and life lessons that every person, no matter what your job, age, status, or goals are, can learn from. Then we have the so-called how-to books. And these are the books that just lay it out. They can be modern or classic. These type of books are going to be most relevant to your career, business, health, or relationships. We often call them how-to books because they provide practical lessons that you can use almost immediately in your everyday life. There's a very broad variety of how-to books and are mostly non-fiction. Lastly, we have the biographies. Reading biographies or autobiographies gives you the chance to learn through other people's mistakes without making them yourself. Warren Buffett once said, "We all learn by mistakes, but it's a heck of a lot easier to learn through other people's mistakes." Reading biographies is also one of the foundational ways to build courage, to overcome fear and pain and rise above the risks. Because when you read a great autobiography of someone that has an amazing success story, you develop a thought that says, well, if the author can do it, then so can I. So each type basically has its own purpose. So let's say you're picking 3 books to read in a day. You pick a classic, a how-to book, and a biography. So let's say you're creating your own reading routine right now at this moment. First, you want to pick a classic. For example, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is a highly respected book. It's more than 80 years old, definitely a classic. So I'm going to pick this one as my classic book. Next, what you want to do is pick the how-to book. For example, I'm picking Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. This is a business book. It's relevant to my career, very practical. I'm going to choose this one as my how-to book. Then I'm going to pick a biography book or an autobiography book. For example, Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is his life story that he wrote himself, and I'm going to pick this one as my 3rd book. So now I have these 3 books that I'm going to add to my reading routine. And what you want to do is read each type a different time of the day. And that brings us to tip 3, read in order. In the morning, read your classic. Classic books are often a little bit more difficult to read and are best read in the morning when you still have all the brain power to really understand what you're reading. The content of classic books can be heavy. Think about old works from the philosophers like Seneca, and is therefore best understood when you read it in the morning after you wake up. Because when you read a classic at the end of the day, after a long day, you might need to reread sentences over and over again to really get what the author is saying. It's not really effective, it takes a lot of time, you start doubting if you even chose the right book, you start thinking reading is not even for you when you're probably just tired. So read classic books in the morning. In the afternoon, read your how-to book. During the day, you are in the flow and most likely to be busy with your everyday life. Think about your career, your relationships, your study, which is a great moment to read a practical book. At the end of the day, read your biography. Biographies or autobiographies often are the easiest to read, which will be the best book to read at night. Your brain is tired from a long day, so you want to give it an easy book to read so you don't end up not remembering what you read. Reading a biography is also the best ways to fall asleep. It's like reading yourself a bedtime story. You are reading about the life of someone else, the obstacles they overcame, the lessons they learned, the risks they took, all of that before going to bed. You are basically taking this success story with you when you go to sleep, and you wake up energized and full of spirit the next day. So keep reading the 3 books, the classic, the how-to, and the biography, every day in order until you're done reading them. And then start again with another 3 books from each type. If you happen to finish one book earlier than the other 2, add in a new book from that type while keeping the flow of your routine going. Tip 4, experiment. Experiment with your routine. Try it out and see how it works for you. You don't need to read a lot. Remember, reading multiple books doesn't mean you're reading a lot. You can read each book for 5 minutes. That's just 50 minutes a day. That's already 7 hours a month of book content. And you can build that up. If you have absolutely no time during the day, you can read 2 books instead of 3. Experiment. Tweak it to suit your needs best. Tip 5, prepare. Have your books ready and always with you. Prepare what classic book you're going to read in the morning. If you're out during the day, don't forget to bring your how-to book with you. Put your biography book on your nightstand to remind yourself to read it before bed. This way you keep the routine going. The preparation part is basically your cue to start your reading routine. If you haven't seen the video yet where I talk about the power of habit and how you can make reading a habit by starting a cue, I'll link it below, so make sure you watch that video too to complete your reading routine. Also, a quick reminder, anytime you implement a new change or habit in your life, it almost always feels a little uncomfortable. If you're feeling a little anxious or awkward about starting a reading routine, know that it's completely normal. Either way, you're about to give yourself the gift of daily reading, one of the greatest resources of mankind. I hope this video was of value to you. I've also linked some recommended books for each type in the description below, so make sure you check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn the notification bell on to get notified every time we have a new video up. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you next time.